If you're using Claude Code and you're feeling a little lost or confused about all the features that it offers, here's my breakdown of the Claude Code feature iceberg. At the top is the claude.md file. Now, this is a file literally named claude.md, and it should live in the project root of your project. And this is essentially a system prompt for Claude Code that will be injected into the context window of Claude at the beginning of every conversation. Because of this, you only want to put essential information in the claude.md file to avoid taking up too much context, like your project architecture, best practices, and the general system flow of the project that you're working in. Next is MCP servers, and MCP servers essentially are just a tool that allows Claude Code to interface with external apps or APIs. To add an MCP server, just find the MCP server that you want to add, go to the GitHub repository on the internet, copy the link, paste it into Claude Code, and ask it to execute the bash command to configure that MCP server either in your local project directory or globally, depending on where you want the MCP to be accessible to Claude Code. Then exit Claude Code with the /exit command, restart Claude Code, and do /MCP. This will show you your activated MCPs and will show either a check if your MCP is connected or an X if it didn't work. As I've already mentioned, there's several built-in / commands to Claude Code that allow you to do different things with the Claude Code interface. I already mentioned /exit to quit Claude Code, and /resume allows you to resume conversations that you've already had with Claude Code in the past. I mentioned /MCP to see MCP servers. If you want to see all the other built-in / commands, just type in / to the chat box of Claude Code, and you'll see all of the built-in / commands. One really important built-in / command is /compact, which allows you to compact the context window of Claude Code's conversation with you so that you can keep some context while continuing to code with a more open context window. Now we'll dive deeper into the iceberg to some more advanced features, all of which will live in the .claude folder in your root directory. The first is custom / commands. So to create a custom / command, go into your .claude directory in your root directory, which if it doesn't already exist, you should create. And within that directory, create a commands directory. That should be the name of the folder. Within those, you can create different markdown files that will be designated for different custom prompts that you want to repeatedly send to Claude Code. For example, I have a / command that's called sanity check that essentially runs linting checks, runs a build, just to make sure that there are no major errors in any of the new code that I've just added. The second advanced feature is subagents. To create a subagent, you're again going to want to go into the .claude directory, which is in your root directory, and create an agents directory. It should be named agents. In that directory, you're going to create markdown files with the names of the agents that you want to create. Now, if you want to take the hard road, you can reference Anthropic's documentation on how to write the front-end YAML to make these subagents, but the easy way is actually to go into Claude Code and type in /agents, hit enter, and hit add a new agent. This way, Claude Code will actually write the entire agent for you, so all of the front-end YAML is configured correctly, so Claude Code will know exactly when and how to call your subagent. In this process, Claude Code will ask you to describe the function and when you want the subagent to be called. And so you can just do that in plain English, and Claude Code will translate that into a programmatic subagent that will be executed, hopefully, at the right time. If you want to get really fancy with subagents and / commands, what you can do is create a bunch of different subagents that specialize in different tasks, and then create a / command that has a prompt referencing all of those subagents to orchestrate them in a long-running workflow. For instance, if you have a full stack feature that you want to implement requiring front end and back end, you can have a front end, back end, and integration specialist as 3 separate agents, and you can create a / command that will initialize all of them in order based on the feature that you want to implement. Now, diving all the way to the basement of the iceberg, we're going to get into Claude Code hooks and Claude Code skills. Hooks at its simplest form is just a way to trigger a piece of code based on a pre or post tool use of Claude Code. So when Claude Code uses a tool, it triggers this piece of code to occur. Common use cases are playing a sound after the stop tool is used so that once Claude Code has finished with a task, it plays a sound on your computer so you know. Another common use is using prettier or linting just to check any code that Claude Code has just written to make sure it's all formatted correctly. An advanced use case of Claude hooks is if you're running a multi-agent system where you have multiple instances of Claude Code running at the same time, you can use hooks to observe the individual actions that each agent is taking, and you can hook that up to some sort of user interface or a messaging system so you know what all of your agents are doing at any given time. Last but not least, we have Claude skills. In my opinion, this is one of the most powerful features and most underused features in Claude Code. A skill is essentially a package that's full of information and resources for Claude Code to use. It includes different prompts, different documentation, and it can also include different executable scripts. The beauty of Claude skills is that what Claude actually sees as its skill set or all the different skills that it's provided while it's coding is just a short description of what that skill will allow it to do. So as it's coding and performing different tasks, if it realizes, oh, I could use this skill to help me accomplish this task, it will just read the description of that skill and think, I can use this, and then it will load that entire project or that entire skill into its context, containing all of the scripts, all of the documents, all of the prompts. The way to think about Claude skills is if you want a certain group or project of context documents and scripts to be dynamically loaded into Claude Code's context at any point while it's coding, you should use a Claude Code skill. If you want to manually inject a predetermined prompt into Claude Code when you're starting off a task, you should use a custom / command. If you want a completely separate agent with a fresh context window to be able to agentically explore and write to the codebase, you should use a subagent. And if you want a piece of code programmatically executed every time Claude takes a single action, you should use a hook.